Uruguay is the only country in South America where you can walk through the capital city at midnight without a single shred of anxiety. And yet, it is a nation that almost disappeared from the map entirely during the 19th century. To understand the current serenity of the Oriental Republic, you have to appreciate the sheer violence of its birth. Caught in a brutal tug-of-war between the rising empires of Brazil and Argentina, the territory was once a buffer zone, a bloody frontier where identities were forged in fire. We often think of South America as a continent of explosive energy, loud music, and political volatility, a land defined by rapid-fire urban growth and the feverish pace of change. But here, tucked between the giants of Brazil and Argentina, lies a different kind of reality. It is a place where the pace of life feels like it has been slowed down by an invisible hand, as if the country collectively decided to step off the treadmill of history. You feel it the moment you step off the plane in Montevideo. The air is different here. It lacks the thick, humid smog of other regional capitals. Instead, it smells of salt, roasted meat, and the faint, sweet scent of mate leaves being steeped in hot water. The city doesn't scream for your attention. It whispers. It doesn't demand that you conquer it. It invites you to observe it. Montevideo is a city of layers, a palimpsest of European ambition and South American resilience. You walk down the Rambla, the longest continuous sidewalk in the world, stretching for 22 kilometers along the Rio de la Plata. It is the city's beating heart. To your left, the city rises in a mix of Art Deco architecture. Think ornate carvings, geometric shapes and sweeping curves, and modern glass towers that reflect the gray-blue sky. To your right, the water stretches out so wide that, despite being a river, you'd swear it was the ocean. There is a melancholy beauty here, a sense of history that refuses to be erased by the tides of modernization. You see it in the faded facades of the Ciudad Vieja, the old city, where the grandeur of the early 20th century still clings to the walls like a well-worn coat. These buildings, once the homes of wealthy merchants and diplomats, now house eclectic art galleries, government archives, and family-run periadas, where the scent of charcoal smoke lingers in the stone corridors. People sit on street corners, their thermos tucked under one arm, sharing stories that don't seem to have an ending. This is the ritual of the mate, the social lubricant of the southern cone. It is a slow, methodical process of preparation that forces the participant to pause, wait for the water to reach the perfect temperature, and engage in conversation. It is a city that hasn't been overwhelmed by the crushing weight of mass tourism. You can wander into a bookstore, a dusty, towering labyrinth of shelves where the scent of old paper is thick enough to taste, and find a conversation about existential philosophy waiting for you. It's not just a city, it's a living room for a nation that values conversation above commerce. But move further east, and the vibe shifts into something more opulent. We arrive in Punta del Este. If Montevideo is the thoughtful, aging intellectual reading a leather-bound book, Punta del Este is the glamorous, sun-drenched heir to a massive fortune. This is the Saint-Tropez of the Southern Hemisphere. In the peak of summer, the streets are filled with Ferraris, Maseratis, and private yachts anchored in the harbor. Yet there is an underlying sense of calm that persists, even in the height of excess. You see the famous La Mano, sculpture rising from the sand, 5 giant concrete fingers reaching toward the sky as if trying to hold onto the horizon, a monument to the man who drowned and the fragility of human existence. The beaches here are not just places to swim, they are social arenas where the elite of the continent come to disappear. But why here? Why does this specific stretch of coastline attract such a specific kind of quiet life? It's because Uruguay offers something that money can't buy in most other places, the luxury of being left alone. In a world of paparazzi and constant surveillance, Uruguay is a fortress of privacy. You can walk the docks at the port, watch the fishermen haul in their daily catch of hake and squid, and feel like you are 1,000 miles away from the digital noise of the modern world. The contrast is jarring, yet it works. You have the humble, grounded roots of the interior, the gaucho culture of the pampas, and the glitz of the coast, both held together by a shared commitment to a kind of social stillness. Now we have to address the elephant in the room: safety. In a continent where security is often the primary concern for any traveler, Uruguay stands as an absolute anomaly. It isn't that crime doesn't exist, but the intensity of the social contract here is different. There is a level of transparency and trust that is genuinely shocking when you first experience it. You see people leaving their doors unlocked, or sitting in cafes with their laptops left unattended while they grab a refill of coffee or step out to make a phone call. It's not naive. It's a reflection of a society that has invested heavily in education and social welfare for generations. Historically, Uruguay developed a robust middle class early in the 20th century under the leadership of José Bachiller Ordóñez, who introduced secular education, women's suffrage, and labor rights long before many European nations. They've avoided the extreme, violent wealth gaps that have torn apart the social fabric in neighboring nations, creating a cohesive society where the distance between the rich and the poor is bridged by a sense of shared citizenship. It's a quiet stability. It's the feeling of walking home at night, past the neoclassical plazas and through the quiet residential neighborhoods of Patitos, hearing nothing but the rustle of leaves and the distant rhythmic hum of a car engine. This safety isn't just about the absence of crime. It's about the presence of community. People look out for one another because they feel invested in the project of their country. But does this stability come at a price? Critics, and even some younger locals, argue that this peace leads to a certain stagnation, a lack of the hustle that defines the rest of the continent. They wonder if the country is resting on its laurels while the rest of the world accelerates. But if you talk to the locals, they'll tell you that they've consciously chosen this. They've opted for the long lunch, the afternoon mate, and the weekend retreat to the countryside over the breakneck speed of global capitalism. Quality of life here is measured in time, not currency. You see it in the way they raise their children, with a focus on unstructured play rather than extracurricular pressure, and in the way the elderly are integrated into the daily life of the city, not hidden away in facilities. It's a holistic approach to living that prioritizes mental health over output. You can spend your morning working from a cafe in a beautiful colonial building in the heart of Montevideo, and by the afternoon, you're hiking through the rolling emerald green hills of the interior or riding horses on a remote ranch, the endless sky stretching out to meet the horizon. The digital nomad scene is growing, but it's not the frantic work-from-anywhere tech bro vibe you find in Medellin or Lisbon. It's a slower, more deliberate integration. People come here to breathe. They come to find the silence that they've lost in their own lives, the silence that allows for creativity and introspection. And then there is the culture. It's the most laid-back, unpretentious culture you will ever encounter. There is no keep up with the Joneses here. You see CEOs and rural farmers drinking the same mate, talking about the same politics, sitting on the same wooden benches in a public park. There is a profound sense of equality that is rarely seen in such a developed society. It's not that there aren't class differences. There are. But there is a baseline of respect that seems to transcend them. They are deeply proud of their Uruguayanness. They are proud that they are a small country that punches above its weight in human rights, environmental awareness, and political stability. They don't need to shout about it. They just live it. As the sun sets, casting a golden, long shadowed light over the plains, you realize that the quiet isn't empty. It's full. It's full of the weight of a history that chose peace over power, rejecting the militarism that plagued the rest of the southern cone. But as you look deeper into the interior, away from the coast, you start to hear rumors. People talk about the real Uruguay, the one that exists in the isolated border towns, where the law is just a suggestion and the silence is replaced by attention that you can't quite name. These are the borderlands, where the Portuguese influence of Brazil bleeds into the Spanish tradition of Uruguay. In towns like Chuy, the border is so porous it's hard to tell which country you're standing in. Here, the silence changes. It becomes watchful. People whisper about the ghost towns of the north, abandoned settlements left behind by the collapse of the cattle industry, places where the wind whistles through empty windows and the law of the state feels like a distant memory. What happens when the peace is tested by the shadows creeping in from the north? Is this tranquility a permanent state, or is it a fragile glass house waiting for the first stone to be thrown? The further you go, the more you realize that the quiet is not a lack of sound, it's a held breath. In a world that is constantly screaming, perhaps that's the most dangerous thing of all. You begin to wonder if the tranquility of Montevideo is maintained by ignoring the complexities on the fringes. As you drive through the vast empty cattle ranches, the solitude feels less like a choice and more like a barrier. What lurks in the borderlands? Why do the locals refuse to speak about the ghost towns of the north? Are they protecting their peace, or are they hiding the cracks in the foundation of their utopia? You see, Uruguay is a country that has performed a miracle. It has maintained a democracy that feels more like a family dinner than a political system. But even families have secrets. The further north you travel, the landscape shifts from the rolling, verdant hills of the south to a wild, scrubby terrain that feels untamed and indifferent to human laws. There are stories here, stories of illicit trade, of shifting loyalties, and of a history that was never fully reconciled. The locals will smile, hand you a mate, and tell you that everything is fine. But look into their eyes when you mention the northern border, and you see a flicker of something else, perhaps a cautious desire to keep the world at bay, or perhaps a fear that the silence they have cultivated is becoming harder and harder to maintain. The ghost towns are not just architectural ruins. They are reminders that once, a long time ago, the struggle for this land was desperate and total. By choosing to prioritize comfort and social stability, the Uruguayans have effectively built a wall of silence around their nation's darker chapters. They have chosen to look forward, to build a future based on progressivism and human rights, but the past is still there, written into the soil of the North. Is this peace a permanent state of grace? Or is it a carefully curated performance? As you leave the country, looking back at the calm horizon, you realize that the quiet is indeed a choice. A brave, conscious, and incredibly difficult choice to make in a world that is constantly trying to drag you into the noise.